Violetta Likiw with the Laidlaw Foundation, and I'm a senior staff with the foundation. Probably mostly focused on the youth social infrastructure strategies and some of the policy work. I think the groups that we've worked with that have accessed Mass have found a huge help. A lot of the groups are starting organizations and they're new at it, so they need some support in thinking through, what are the right processes? If you're doing strategic planning, how do you actually involve your community? How do you involve your board? How do you involve your volunteers? How do you do that well? And how do you, create solutions that are very inclusive? At the same time, what I see and what I would suggest that Mass would want to keep in mind as consultants to kind of the nonprofit sector is that youth groups are also pushing against sort of the more traditional ways of doing work in the nonprofit sector. And so when going in to work with them, I would also encourage thinking, what are the values that I'm holding as a consultant, or in the things that I think are just this is the way it's done, and perhaps loosening that a little bit. I think there's an opportunity to really push kind of against the structures and systems that are in place right now, and the opportunity with the youth organizing field or youth-led organizations is to begin to innovate more and create some changes in the nonprofit sector. The nonprofit sector is slow to change, and I think Mass being on board and really keeping that front of mind when going in and working with young organizations, sort of not the same old, like what are you trying to do? How are you trying to do it differently? So even in the work with, say, Manifesto, if I can mention that, this is an organization that's trying to figure out succession planning, where their young founders are leaving to bring young people in leadership roles. There are clear roles and responsibilities, but perhaps they don't want to work in a perfectly hierarchical way. So how do you do that? That's not a collective. What are the responsible ways to do this when with the experience as a consultant, you're coming in and certain things have to get done, but how do you juxtapose that with a very different way of working, with a collective leadership model, with a more participatory leadership model? I think that's the biggest thing to keep in mind.